Hello everyone, this is A.D. Ramsey of Davita Handcraft Soap, and today we're going to be making homemade fig Newtons. Yum, 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 yum. I can't find the portion of the recording of when I stewed the actual fresh figs that I received from a coworker. She has a fig tree and she did a harvest and she gave me a nice little bunch, and in return, I stewed some figs so I could make these fig Newtons, which will show up later on in the process. Yummy. So right here, I'm just measuring out some unbleached, plain old unbleached, all-purpose flour. Next, we're going to add some baking powder, and I will be listing the recipe down below. Now we're going to add some table salt. And once we add the table salt, we just whisk it into the flour and baking powder. Now I'm taking a little pinch of the raw ingredients and giving it a taste, because I do not like the taste of too much of the leveling agent, being baking powder or baking soda. I might need to add some, because you can always add it, as you see I'm doing here, but you can't take it away. So always just take a little taste to see if it's too much salt or too much baking powder or baking soda. We're going to set that over to the side, obviously. And then we're going to crack a couple of eggs. And once again, I always crack my eggs in a separate container. I don't just add my eggs directly into whatever batter I'm making, just in case there's a rotten egg or there's a bunch of shells or something. So I always do that. Ooh, look at them skinny legs. Now we're just going to whisk the eggs. Just give them a little beat, just to mix them up, incorporate them, because this isn't a recipe where you have to add each egg in separately. So we're going to add some butter. I always use whole butter. I don't use margarine. Usually when I'm baking, I just try to use butter. And when I catch it on sale, I'll buy a couple of pounds and just put it in the freezer, because normally the butter that I just get the block, it's usually not all nice and individually wrapped, but it seems as of late I've been able to find the individually wrapped butter. So this is a double batch that we're doing. So I think a double batch is three sticks of butter. I'm reading my recipe, I can tell. Get it together, get it together. Okay, I think I figured it out. Next up, brown sugar. Sugar. And this is not tightly, what a mess. This isn't tightly packed. Oh, these voiceovers are cracking me up. What a mess. See, this is the part people usually edit out, but that's okay. I'm going to let the shenanigans all hang out. As you can see, I'm getting every little bit. Oh my goodness. So now we're on to the part where we are zesting a medium-sized orange, and we are going to put all the zest in the bowl. Make sure you use a microplaner because you just want the zest and not the pith, which is the white part of the orange. And then tap it, tap, 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 on the bowl to get every little bit. And of course, this batch is just for myself, my family, because I don't have on gloves, I don't have on socks with my little bony legs. Nobody told me how skinny my ankles were. Horrible. Okay, let's get back to it. So, pure vanilla flavoring. What a ripoff in the store. Make your own. If you have access to vanilla beans, buy the bean, because with the bean, you can then take it, put it in a couple of mason jars, get a nice medium grade of vodka, pour it in there, cover up the beans, and in a couple of weeks, you'll have great pure vanilla flavoring. This recipe calls for a few teaspoons. This is a double batch, so that's why I needed a little bit more. So I just went ahead because I didn't have any vodka already here, so I just used the pure vanilla from the store. Rip off, make your own, and it makes better vanilla bean ice cream. All right, let me get off my soapbox so I can tell you that we are now adding the egg mixture to the sugar and butter. This is called creaming. And once we have these two items mixed together, we will add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. Some recipes is just the opposite, but on this recipe, we're going to add the dry to the wet. So I'm scraping out what's left, and I'm going to turn it up just a wee bit to get it incorporated. So for some reason, I did not have the camera rolling. I did add the flour to the mixture. You can see it's a lot lighter. And for this particular recipe, you don't have to put it in thirds. And when I'm making my cookies, I don't usually use the mixer. I usually mix it by hand because I only want to mix the dry ingredients 50 times. You just turn it 50 times and then that's it, or it'll be pretty tough. Now this right here is still pretty sticky, but we're going to take some parchment paper, or you can use wax paper, but I use parchment paper. I'm going to spray it so it's even more lubricated because this is an extremely sticky dough, but you can work with it. So I'm going to pour out half of the dough, which is going to be our cookie base, onto this parchment oiled paper. As you can see, this is a really wet dough. It's really sticky. You can just add a little bit of water to your hands, and that way it won't stick, so you can manipulate it to the size that you want. This is a double batch, so we're pretty much going to use that full length of parchment paper. But you could also probably use foil. As you can see here, I have stretched the dough out the full length of this particular piece of parchment paper. Now I'm going to take another piece of parchment paper and put the rest of the dough on top. And you don't have to do this. If your measurements are pretty good, you can just go ahead and do it separately. But I usually put another slice of parchment paper on top and make sure that it's sticking down and that you can still lift it up like that. Now with the remaining portion of the dough, I will do the same process, but because it needs to go into the refrigerator, and that's going to be the top layer of the fig Newton, I want to make sure that it will cover the bottom layer. So this is the easiest way that I figured out to measure it. And we're repeating the process. Now, plop. You put the top layer that you just rolled out right on your baking sheet. And I can see right now that we will have to transfer this when we actually get ready to put the jam mixture, because this is going to be too small. This is a standard cookie sheet that I'm about to use, but we need something a little bigger. Okay, we're going to put this in a preheated oven of 350 degrees for about 20 minutes. After the first 12 minutes or so, I rotate it. So I'm going to take the bottom part of the cookie and take that out the oven, and it looks nice and golden brown, and it smells so good. This is our fig puree, which I cooked down and stewed for maybe 40 minutes. It was quite a bit of fig, and so I'm just going to dump some out of there. It smells so good. It smells nice, and between the clove and the nutmeg and the orange and the apple juice that I cooked it in and finished it off with different spices. That puree was so good. And I'm just spreading it through the bottom cookie, and of course you can use an offset you can use an offset spatula to be more professional, but I just reached in the drawer and grabbed whatever I had, which was a butter knife. Now that the smear has been smeared, we'll take the portion that was in the freezer or in the refrigerator out and layer on top of the jam and the cookie. Here's the issue. I folded that piece right there, which I should not have done because it didn't quite fit in the refrigerator. So I said, oh, I'll just put a little bend in it. No big deal. But it did not, it wasn't pliable like I thought that it would. I thought it would be like pizza dough, but it was definitely cookie dough, and it didn't spring back. But that's okay. So here I'm going to just flip that piece right on top, and you can still maneuver it. Once you get it flipped over, you can scoot it over a little bit. But as you can see, that piece that I had folded did not fold back. So I had to pinch it together, and I still didn't like it. Although it doesn't hurt the product, it doesn't do any of that. I did move this to a bigger sheet, cooking sheet. So I just picked it up and slid it right onto a half sheet cooking tray. And I definitely wasn't happy with the piece that was broken on the end. So I just cut it off. I transferred into a smaller pan, which I will cook off after the half sheet tray is finished. So we're going to plop it in the oven. I'm not going to spray the top or anything like that. And I let it cook for maybe about 30 minutes. And this is what it looks like once it came out the oven. Ooh, there you go. I put it on the cooling rack to let it cool for maybe about 40 minutes or so because I didn't want it to be too hot when I cut it. Low key, I like the broken piece better because you can see the jam showing through, but it was delicious. Thank you so much for watching me make my version of fig Newtons. The recipe is in the link. You all have a great day. Bye.